We request you to kindly raise your hand if you have a question, and the mic will be passed on to you.
Good evening, sir. My question to
Help me understand with your name and what you do.
I'm Pranav. I'm in second year metallurgy and materials doing my BTech. My question to you.
Which state, sir?
I'm from Maharashtra, from Pune specifically. So my question to you is, fundamentally, what is the election campaigning and overall difference between India and US?
India and?
US. Like the kind of campaigns that they run there and the people reacting to those campaigns.
Hugely different. It should be different, it is different, and it should be different. You are talking about a continent. India is a continent. So if I were to ever compare US elections, I would compare it with a state. Comparing India's election with US is demeaning to India. You are talking about 800 million voters. 800 million voters versus in US would be what? 120, 150. It's not even 1/6. So I wouldn't compare, plus the per capita income basis. We are like 2,000 per capita basis. We are $2,000 per person. They are around 54, 55,000. So their aspirations, their challenges, their needs are vastly different than what would be ours. So of course campaign has to factor that in. So what you see lot of freebies and all in India, because its survival is at stake. It's very easy for you and I to say that why a state has to give this much freebies. Imagine someone who is to make sure that there is bread on the plate of his child every evening. He gives a damn to what is happening to the environment. Even if he wants, he cannot think about right-based approach. Even if he wants, he cannot be concerned about what is happening to the space program. He comes back home, he has to make sure that there is a bread on the table. If he doesn't work through the day, his children are going to go empty stomach. It's very easy for you and I to say that why these politicians always keep talking about these things. You have no idea. 800 million people, 80 crore people still do not make 100 rupees a day. In India, 80 crore people do not make 100 rupees a day. And you and I expect them to think about future, think about environment, think about right-based approach. Baba, if someone gives him 5,000 rupees, 1 month food is secured. So he is well within his right to take money and then vote. There is no wrong in that. Make no mistake. It's one thing for you and I to preach, and if I and you have to be in that position, we will do the same thing what they are doing. So I would never compare these two, and it should not be compared. Anyone, you don't need to ask me, just get up and ask.
Hi sir, I'm Akash, I'm a third year student.
You have already asked 3 questions to me when you met me individually. Yes, go ahead.
Yes sir. So you mentioned that the local elections will be run on party ticket in Bihar. What are the other changes that we can expect to see when it comes to municipal governance in Bihar, municipal or Panchayati Raj?
As a country, it took us 50 years before Parliament made that amendment in 90s, empowering Panchayati Raj. See, you and I make the big mistake. For us, all MLAs and MPs are the governments. Have you ever seen a senator in US being bothered about a drainage or the road or the school? They are there, their primary job is to legislate. In India, they are not doing legislation. They are just interested in transfer, posting, nali, gully, sadak. The local bodies, the work which should be done by the local bodies is actually being done by the MPs and MLAs, or people expect them to. And that's why you and I get angry. यार MP बनने के बाद भी देखो कुछ सड़क नहीं बदली, सड़क उसके हाथ में है ही नहीं. Have you ever tried to visualize that why someone like Rahul Gandhi or Modi, he is the Prime Minister, why Banaras roads are not changing? Even if the he is the Prime Minister, why he is not, suppose your MP is incompetent, but why roads of Banaras are not changing? Baba, वो municipal corporation को करना है, Modi cannot do anything beyond pushing it, beyond probably putting an officer of his choice as the head of the corporation. Government of India cannot build the sub-lanes of Varanasi. But you and I, the way it is in India, लोग MP को गाली देते हैं, people criticize MPs and MLAs because roads बना नहीं, पानी नहीं निकल रहा है, बिजली नहीं आ रहा है. भाई बिजली, can any MP make a power station? If power distribution is flawed, what MP or MLA can do? They can do nothing. So local bodies, I see as India, democracy matures in India, you will see 20 years, 30 years down the line, I see they become more powerful, they handle more resources, and the constitution says 50% of the development budget should be spent through them. So if they are spending 50%, look at some people from Maharashtra, your Jila Parishad probably handles more money than any MP or minister can handle in other states. And that is how it should be. Because the Jila Parishad knows what is the requirement on the ground. How on the earth a secretary who has come from Karnataka sitting in Delhi can decide about the rural requirement in Maharashtra or Tamil Nadu? That's how it is today. A joint secretary in a department in Government of India decides for whole of India what is your requirement. In the name of uniformity, in the name of very good planning, and in the name of stopping corruption. It's all flawed. The more decentralization takes place, there will be some problem in terms of design and uniformity. There might be some corruption also on the ground, but in the long run that will deliver. You cannot let people sitting in Delhi, few bureaucrats who do not even know for whom they are deciding. They are taking, 16 lakh crore is the Government of India's budget. Bulk of it, which goes on development, is decided by what? 10, 12, 15, 20, 30 bureaucrats. They put the design, they earmark the money, and everyone else has to follow that. How much understanding, I understand, even if I give that those 15 people are the wisest persons on the planet, how much understanding they would have of the 2 lakh panchayats in India? They would have no understanding, or very little understanding. But every panchayat head, every Jila Parishad head has to follow what these 15 wise people have decided sitting in Delhi, that this is how your government, and this is how you should, what is the requirement of your panchayat, this is the money we are sending, spend it this way and send me the report.
Good evening, sir. Here up. My name is Carol.
Yes.
Considering you worked for the Modi government and
I work with Mr. Modi, not with Mr. Modi government.
Yes, okay. Considering you worked with Mr. Modi and with the Indian Science Congress behind us, I want to ask you a hypothetical question. If you were a political strategist working for a party and, let's say leaders of a party made a verifiably incorrect statement in public, what would your advice to them be?
See, it's not a hypothetical situation. I would have been part of many of his speeches where he would have made a statement which were not 100% verifiable. But if you are a realist, when you are handling 1 to million communication, there has to be a balance between what is factually correct and how it should be communicated. So, I give you an example. In Bihar, in last 15 years, Nitish Kumar government has made 1.2 lakh kilometers road. One way to communicate is you say that we have built 1.2 lakh kilometer of road. Another way to say it, that as a chief minister I have promised and I have delivered that बिहार के किसी कोने से पटना आने में आपको 5 घंटे लगेंगे. Now the second statement is factually could be incorrect, because from some places it might take 5.5 hours, 6 hours, because no one has verified it. But that's the language which is based on some work. It is not lie, but a language which people understand, and it creates impact in a rally or when you are communicating with millions of people. If you start giving detail of kilometer and miles and, people don't understand it. And that's why you would have seen in 2014, I don't like to take names, but say Mr. Chidambaram making lot of factual statement. Gujarat rank is this much on education, on health rank is this much. And Modi is saying that Gujarat model of development is something which I want to replicate across India. People bought that idea. So yes, you should not lie, but a little bit of tweaking or to make it more acceptable or understandable for the masses is something which should be allowed. The another factor is also the communicator, how comfortable he is. I worked with Congress also, and if I were to tell Mr. Manmohan Singh that, sir, ye baat kahiye, he will read whole night, again come in the morning and again he will ask me, lekin ye to fact, Prashant ji, theek nahi hai. And there are leaders who are comfortable with it. If you are a Lalu Yadav and I tell him, sir, बोल दीजिए कि कल सबकी जिंदगी ठीक हो जाएगी, तो बोल देंगे. If you are a Modi, then I have to back it with some data. And if you are a Manmohan Singh, then I have to back it completely with data. So, but if you are a campaigner, you have to strike a balance somewhere which is closer to the fact but understandable to the masses.
Good evening, sir. My name is Sriram. I am doing my BTech in chemical engineering here. We have seen a trend in the recent times that during each state government elections, political parties promise to write off farm loans. It happened in Maharashtra, it happened in Uttar Pradesh. But this is going to put huge pressure on the banks which have given these loans. So, and each time lakhs of crores of farm loans are written off. So what do you think is going to be the permanent solution for upliftment of farmers or for their woes, how to solve their woes?
So, I'm not an agriculture expert, so definitely I do not have a vision or a plan to share how the farm or agrarian crisis could be sorted in India on sustainable basis. But couple of facts. The Swaminathan Commission report, which is the base for all the discussion in India on agriculture, has pronounced that all agriculture activity, any household which is cultivating land which is less than 2 acres, farming is not sustainable. So no matter how much effort you put, no matter what you sow, no matter what you harvest, on medium to long term basis, farming of less than 2 acres is not economically viable or sustainable. But we as a country have put 50% people to remain engaged in the farming activities. So we owe it to them. And you should not be bothered about farm loan waiver. It doesn't put stress on the banking as you said. First of all, banks do not waive the loan. Loan is waived from the government. Banks are just the intermediaries. Banks have got 12 lakh crores of NPA. None of that is coming from farm. It's all coming from the industrialists. Are you bothered about that? When telecommunication started in India, government moved from the fee base to revenue share. What was the fundamental basis? That it is not economically viable for companies to pay the fee and grow. So if there is a person or a group of persons who are not able to do something the way it should be done, then I can understand your logic. But 50% of India population cannot be inefficient, cannot be corrupt, cannot be thieves. If they are not able to make sense of agriculture, then we as a country have to help them. There is no harm in it. At the beginning of 20th century, close to 50%, where we are today, similar data you can have in US. Close to 50% people were engaged in agriculture. 100 years down the line, today only 2% people in US are directly engaged in agriculture, and productivity in agriculture has gone up by almost 105 times. So the way forward is less people on agriculture, and that will make it more viable, and then probably lesser need for you and I or the government to waive off the loan. waive off of the loan is not because of the bank, not because they are inefficient, and you cannot let them die for the want of 50,000 crores or 60,000 crores. It's not big enough money for which you can let people die. Government spends a lot of money on this 50,000, 60,000 crores. They spend a lot of bullshit, and you and I don't care. The moment it is going to a specific farmer sector, we get agitated. That's not the right thing to do. If one industrialist fail, I'm not a center, leftist guy, but if one industrialist fail, 50,000 crores or 60,000 crore is a write-off. That 50,000 crore can take care of the entire farming community of whole of Maharashtra. What do you want to do? If you are sitting on the chair and you know that half of my population is in crisis, should you give that 50,000 crore or you shouldn't? And banks are in mess because of their own corruption and own inefficiency, not because of waiving of the farm loan. They have not given a penny from the banks, and they are still bleeding, and they are all in deep red. Money has come from the exchequer, from your money, my money, the taxpayers' money. Banks have not given the money. They make a lot of halla gulla about it. You ask a banker how much money you have given, how much money SBI would have given, how much money any bank would have given. They are just the facilitator. Money is coming from the budget.
My name is Manjeet. I am from Devghar, Jharkhand, and I am doing a PhD here in mechanical engineering. I would ask you a question considering you as a vice president of Jadyu. So my question is how much you are prepared for coming Lok Sabha elections, especially seeing the politics of Bihar where more of caste-based politics persist and Bahubali-based politics persist, and especially about Munger Lok Sabha seat where and where recently one more move have been observed that famous IPS Manu Maharaj have been got promoted as a DIG and posted in Munger itself.
Okay, I will not get into the specific, the larger issue of the importance of caste, because I don't think a lot of people are here to understand the dynamics of Munger Lok Sabha, which you and I can discuss separately. See, this is two things which I should say on my own, because sooner or later someone will ask. The importance of caste and the money. How much it is detrimental to anyone becoming a politician and being successful in the politics. We say that everything in India moves in the name of caste, especially in Hindi heartland. First of all, barring few states here and there, caste is universal in India. It is not less or more in UP or Bihar. Take it from me first hand. I have done it in Gujarat. It is as much as it is in Simandra. It is the same in Bihar, same in UP. In some states where sub-regionalism is a concept, like a Tamil, Assamese, Bengalis, there you have Indian, then you are a Tamilian, then the caste becomes the third layer. In Bihar or UP or Madhya Pradesh, there is no sub-regionalism concept. So you are an Indian and then you go to the caste. That's why optically it looks more caste dominated, but in reality caste is as important in Bihar as it is in Tamil Nadu or Andhra or Gujarat. The second thing, how much it plays in politics. It's a reality of the society. So if you ever want to become a politician or an advisor of a politician, you need to have a very deep and solid understanding of the caste. I want you to underline the word understanding of the caste. Understanding caste is not equivalent to practicing caste-based politics. So very successful politicians, they have a very deep understanding of caste dynamics, but that does not mean that they all practice caste-based politics. So Nitish Kumar would have, or Modi would have, very good understanding of caste, as much as a Mayawati or Mulayam Singh or Lalu Yadav. But they do not overtly play the caste politics. How much is the impact of the caste? You are from Jharkhand. In Jharkhand in 2014, because no amount of argument will convince you, so I am giving you the example. And anyone from any state can stand up and I will take that. because he has raised the question, he is from Jharkhand. In Jharkhand 2014, who got the vote in Lok Sabha? Mr. Modi, right? भैया वोट किसको पड़ा? मोदी को पड़ा नहीं पड़ा? इन महाराष्ट्र वोट किसको पड़ा? मोदी को पड़ा. इन बिहार वोट मोदी को पड़ा. मोदी जी के जाति के कितने लोग उस स्टेट में रहते हैं? रहते हैं? नहीं. आप में से सारे लोग कहेंगे, some of you will tell that no, it was the big hype created, Modi Lahar, social media, that is why caste was not that important. I agree with you. Okay, for an argument's sake, I agree. Now let's go back to 1989. There was another Prime Minister, Mr. Vishwanath Pratap Singh. He walked out of Congress with 3 people, no organization, no party. In 1 year and a half, he demolished Congress electorally, which was far bigger electoral machine than what BJP is today. He belonged to a caste called Rajput. What is the proportion of Rajputs in Hindi heartland? Not more than 5% in any state. The same casteist societies voted for Mr. Vishwanath Pratap Singh. You will say that no, it was because of the Bofors, it was because of Rajiv Gandhi was very unpopular, this, that. Okay, go further back. 1984, everywhere Congress won. The same casteist society voted for anyone who was Congress candidate. You plot these 3 things, the facts as it stands. What does it tell you? That if there is a person, a narrative or an event that superimposes itself on everything else, then caste becomes, the identity becomes the second. The political pundits, the journalists, the analysts write that ये wave election था. That was the Indira ji के death का wave था. ये मोदी की लहर थी. That's what you read. In reality, and I can take you to up to 1952, you would see that wherever a person or a narrative or a discourse has become so prominent and appealing to the masses, the caste has played the secondary role. That tells me as a campaigner that it is possible to overcome the caste hurdle. And it is not my prospective wisdom. That is what the data is telling us. Because if you take the state elections, you will see anyone who has evolved on the scene with a big narrative, big program or something that would have caught the imagination of people have voted for them. So never ever get this feeling that everything is driven by caste. Everything is driven by caste as much as it is driven in US with the color skin of the color, or the tribes in Africa. Social aggregation or in some form or other is the reality of humanity. If it is called caste in India, it is called tribes in Africa, and it might be called something else in other part of the world. There are 10,000 tribes in Africa, 54 countries, 1.2 billion population, which is similar to what we have in India. Probably we would have 5,000 or 6,000 castes in India. So you and I need not be defensive about it. It's a reality. Whether it's right or wrong, that's a different debate. As a politician, you do not have option to make everything ideal. Everything becomes ideal, then I will start doing politics is not an option. Politics is as good or as bad as the society is. If there is caste in society, politician has to understand caste. If there is criminality in society, then you have to understand the criminality and the pattern of it. If you want to work against caste, then you will become a social reformer, which your choice, you can do it. But as a politician, never ever get this feeling that I will be a politician if everything is ideal. There is no corruption, there is no caste, there is no criminal, there is no challenge, then I will become a politician. It will be like saying, Cristiano Ronaldo says that give me the ball, no one should check me and I will make a goal. Who cares? If you want to become the leader of any society, you have to accept the pluses and the minuses, the positives and negatives of the society as it exists, win it, and then you can choose to make amends, make corrections, make your effort. But if you think that society becomes ideal and then you will do the favor by joining or choosing to be the leader of that society, this is the most flawed argument young people have.
Hello sir, I am Mashuda Sultana, PhD in Civil Engineering. I am from Tamil Nadu. I am impressed with your idea of bringing in 1 lakh youth in politics. So my question is, what is your strategy on making that in reality? Like how you are going to bring the discipline or the awareness or the political knowledge in such a large number of youth? Because currently in my state right now, because there's a large number of youth who are interested in getting into politics and bringing in changes, but that kind of discipline or the collective awareness is not unable to establish right now. So what is your strategy on bringing that into reality? Thank you.
It's rather simple because whatever little I have done in the past, when I went to Bihar, I said, okay, I have been advising Modi's and Nitish Kumar's and all the names which Professor has kindly read. Now I want to advise young people who otherwise has got nobody to look to who can advise or help him or her. And I will spend next 2 years meeting the people, helping them become Mukhiya, become Jila Parishad member, become MLA or try to become MP. And I have circulated something on Facebook page. This just the message that if you want to join politics and be guided by Prashant Kishore, here is the number, my office number. And in last 2 months, 50 days is what we have ran the campaign in Bihar, which is not the most connected online crowd. I've got 50,000 people and I have stopped registration because I'm not able to meet them as much as I should and I could. So in next 2 years, the idea is not only to make people join. I need to be having this session which I am having with you. I do this session from morning to evening for people who are registered in what we call Youth in Politics, YIP. And after the group, the opportunity is with the guy to meet me individually. That takes a lot of time. And that's what I do whole day. From 9 o'clock to 11, if I am in Patna, this is what I do. Sitting at Chief Minister's residence, this is what I do. So anyone who wants to, I'm sure the leaders who are here, if Rajinikanth wants to do this or Mr. Kamal Hassan wants to do it, they can do it as well. Because in my experience in last 5-6 years, I have seen there is enough number out there who want to join politics. There is nobody to guide them. And there is nobody to assure them that if you make an effort, if you are there for 5 years, 6 years, 10 years, there is a political party which is going to give you tickets. Because Rahul Gandhi has also tried this in 2007-8. And a party which fights elections on pan-India basis, he definitely has a larger canvas to operate. He has not able to give 50 such people tickets to become MLA. I am promising in Bihar, we are a very small party, that I will make sure that and I am making this public announcement every second day, that comes in local papers, media, whatever, that in next 5 years, the average age of JDU MLA should become 45. That means I have to make people who are less than 45 fight elections, because there are people who are 55, 60, I cannot throw them off. And I have also announced that almost 50 MLAs, that's the target in 2020, 50 MLAs should be below 40. That's the only way we can bring the average age around 45. So this is the strategy. A strategy is whatever little name is there, people are excited that okay, people have heard about it, that Prashant Kishore can advise someone. So if you want to become a Mukhiya and you get a chance that you can meet me and be guided by me, you come if you choose to. And there I do not see the problem in numbers. The problem is I am not able to do it as much as I should and I could. And second is I have a political platform in Bihar, so I cannot make that commitment in Tamil Nadu because I don't have a political platform. Now one of you or some of you could ask this question, because I hear this in Delhi and other places, that why are you not doing it at a pan-India basis? It's because I do not want to overpromise and underdeliver. If I am able to do this in Bihar, next time when I come to IIT Madras and I tell you that do this, I would have something where I would have proven and I would have delivered in Bihar, then you will take me more seriously.
Thank you, sir, for your insightful talk. I think due to paucity of time, we'd have to stop.
In 15-20 minutes I have to leave because I have a meeting at 8:30. You have started late.
I think it's important
But
that we respect
all
our-
of you who want to remain in communication, I have started something new which Indian politicians have not done until now. Twitter pe DM ka. You know Twitter the way it is used. I use it for the DM, direct message. You can write to me 3 times, 4 times a day, and I try to answer as much as I could. Now, the natural question that should come to your mind is, why not a phone number, why not WhatsApp, why Twitter? It's because in India we have a psyche. People send message and then call. Sir, message bheja hai, pad liya ki nahi? We all do that. You go to the platform number, someone says platform number 3. Still you and I am in habit, you'll check to the next person. Platform number 3 है ना? भाई पूछ के आए हो, डायरेक्शन देख के आए हो, 3 पर पहुंच गए हो, लेकिन मानोगे नहीं. So learning from that, I found a platform which is Twitter, which is reasonably in use. There you cannot make a call, because if I give you a WhatsApp number, you send me a message and then you will start calling me. If I don't pick the phone, you will say, oh, he's like the same other leaders, he gives the number, he doesn't pick the phone. So the way to remain in touch for all your questions, queries is you send direct message on Twitter, open your DM as well so that I can reply. Or if you want to meet personally, then I conduct these sessions everywhere, like in Mumbai, in Hyderabad, in Delhi, in Patna. My office number is 91216 which is available on the internet. You just call, take time, come and meet. And if you are enough, then I come to Chennai as well. I go wherever I have enough number to justify my day. Yes, whoever wants to ask. I'm here till 8, I think I can stretch it to 8. I have a meeting at 8:30, I have to run. Yes.
It's 8.
Hello sir, I am Azhar, I'm a PhD student here and I am from Jammu and Kashmir. So this question is relevant to all, and as a political strategist and analyst and also been an UN advisor for almost 8 years. So recently you have that Shah Faisal, who was a bureaucrat, and he has resigned, and then he's going to join politics, that he has made clear in his interview, in his first interview. And then you saw as you said, it is what matters will make the impact on the politics in the place he belongs to. So in the last week, he has mentioned that Kashmiri lives matter. I don't want to go into details on all those things. So my question is, most of the people, even the governor of the state, he has said that he should not have quit this job and join the politics. He would have contributed more. So as you said that youth should come and join the politics. So what is your stand on it, and what should be the role of youth of other states to get involved? You know what the current situation in Kashmir very well. I hope that...
I met the guy.
Yeah.
He came to meet me also through a friend before he made the decision. See, it's a personal choice what you want to do. But on a larger point, I want to tell you something. For all the flaws in politics, one good thing is you can start doing or showing your caliber from wherever you are. You don't need to quit your studies. You don't need to quit your job dreams. You achieve that and then you can come in politics. When I am saying come in politics, politics is not a train standing on the station which if you do not join tomorrow, it will run away. If Gandhi could study and become what he became, if Nehru can become, if Ambedkar could become, I'm sure you and I can also become. We have enough time. So please, I'm not running a program where I'm asking youth to leave your studies, do not pursue the dream which you and your family has for yourself, for you, and then come and join politics. But you could be more, if you choose to be, then first become the best what you could become. Never underestimate the support or the consent of the family and friend. It is your family which is going to stand with you. Tomorrow, when you are in trouble after joining politics, it is your father who will stand with you, not Prashant Kishore. So, it is in my interest that more people come and follow me, but it may or may not be necessarily in your interest the way I want you to do it. So, think for yourself, don't get swayed away by any individual. It's your life, but do consider that this is, if you have it in you, it is possible. My message is only that it is possible if you choose to be. My idea is not that, oh, everyone should leave and become politician, but my idea is that those who contemplate or have thinking that they want to or they could be politicians, they could be helped. If they have doubts, those doubts could be addressed. There could be some experience that could be brought in there to make their journey more successful. But it is an individual choice. And if you cannot become the leader of your own household, how are you going to be the leader of the society? So if it takes 6 months for your parents to get convinced, it is worth spending that 6 months. It is like I was telling on a casual note, you have a girlfriend, you want to marry her. The choice is yours. You want to run away with her and get married, parents will fall in line anyway. Or you want to convince that no, she is the best girl and your parents agreeing to it. Which one is more better? Always the second. So never join, parents are not your enemies. They are the one, they might have a different perspective. When I came, my father stopped talking to me for 6 months. But I tell you, on daily basis, unless your parents, your family is with you, the journey will only get tougher and difficult for you. So it's first complete what your parents expect you to do, and you can start politics here. You can start as a student politician, you can start writing, you can start building understanding, you can start sparing some time which you spend on the watching movie, you can do something which is related to politics if that is what you want to pursue. For that you don't need to quit IIT and join politics. I am not giving that call, please.
Thank you, sir, for your views and insights. I'm sure that the knowledge you have imparted and the ideas you have shared have left a lasting impact on our understanding of Indian politics.